We're still waiting on word from Sony whether the Vita store will be closing this year, and I'm sure many Vita fans are looking at the store and figuring out if there are games they want to buy before the store does close. But it's not just games we'll be losing. There's a whole load of brilliant DLC that will disappear, some of which is exclusive to Vita. I wanted to do a video on what I consider some of the best DLC for Vita games. Most of these titles have had physical releases, so if you've got the physical copy, then you'll still be able to play the base game forever. But you may want to consider grabbing the DLC before the store closes. This list is in no particular order. Killzone Mercenary. Killzone Mercenary is a superb game, and definitely the best first-person shooter on the Vita. There's an online multiplayer mode, but Sony released the Bot Zone DLC back in 2014, which means you can play those maps offline against computer-controlled opponents. This DLC is brilliant, and there's also a patch that adds additional multiplayer maps. It's great to have this extra content in the game. Darkest Dungeon. Darkest Dungeon is already a massive game that takes dozens of hours to finish. They added DLC with extra characters to add to your party, and 2 new areas with new enemies to fight and new bosses. These were the Color of Madness and Crimson Court. The Crimson Court in particular was really good. They were very difficult, but if you love Darkest Dungeon like I do, then this extra content is great to keep you playing for longer.
In that moment, I understood the test.
BlazBlue Chrono Phantasm Extend. The fighting game BlazBlue Chrono Phantasm Extend had free DLC that added a story mode and gallery to the game. I wasn't fussed about the gallery, but having a long visual novel story mode attached to the game was very generous. I did find the story quite hard to follow at times, as I hadn't kept up with the story of the previous BlazBlue games, but I'm glad it's there. Soul Sacrifice. Sony released a load of extra missions for Soul Sacrifice. I'd recommend getting the Delta version as it has all the content and more, but if you're someone with the base game and want to stick with it, then grab all the free DLC. The Persona Dancing Games. The Persona Dancing Games had a lot of costumes and accessories for characters to wear, which I didn't really care about, but what I did care about was the extra songs. Between the 3 games there are dozens of extra songs to download and play. Some of the tracks are great, and I love these games so much that having more reason to keep playing was very welcome for me. Borderlands 2. If you bought Borderlands 2 new physically, it came with a code to download a whole lot of DLC, including 2 expansions. You also get this DLC free when you buy it digitally from PSN. The extra content is very good, and if you buy a second-hand copy of the game, you'll miss out on all of it. It'll probably be hard to find a sealed copy these days, and the code may not work anymore. So I recommend buying it digitally and keeping it on your Vita or backing up the whole file with DLC, so that you have access to it. Wipeout 2048. Wipeout 2048 had 2 expansions that basically added all the tracks and vehicles from the 2 Wipeout PSP games. I found these maps really hard, but it was great to have more tracks to play. Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush had 3 pieces of DLC that added new outfits for Cat, new story missions, and new challenge missions. There wasn't a huge amount of content, but I enjoyed having more reason to keep playing Gravity Rush. Zen Pinball. The base Zen Pinball game is not great. What made the game great is all the extra tables. The Marvel tables and the Bethesda tables were awesome and made this one of my favourite games of all time. They can be really expensive, but they're so good, especially the Skyrim table, which is basically a pinball RPG. It's so clever and so much fun.
Sovngarde's freedom. Defeat Alduin. A dragon approaches. Prepare for battle.
Muramasa Rebirth. Last on my list is Muramasa Rebirth. There were 4 DLC expansions that featured new characters, new stories, and new bosses. Each one will take you around 4 hours to complete, which is a good amount of extra content. I thoroughly recommend them. Muramasa was already an awesome game, but these expansions make it even better. There are loads more games with DLC to check out, like Sword Art Online Hollow Fragment, Little Big Planet, character outfits for Dead or Alive 5+, SteamWorld Heist, and a ridiculous amount of DLC for Minecraft. Let me know in the comments guys, what DLC did you recommend for others, and if the store is shutting down, what DLC will you be grabbing before the end? Leave a comment below, and as always, thanks for watching.